We love you, Basil, and we're so grateful to have you here with us today.
I am going to open in with a prayer in my language. And my prayer is going to say, we're gathered here to share some divine language, to speak to the uncreated universe. And my prayer is to be respectful and to be truthful what I'm sharing, but also to recognize my gift of what our ancestors taught us. And that is, Fool's Crow said we need to be hollow bones. And hollow bone is when you pray and do a ceremony and there's a healing, you didn't do it. It's the effort that you put into that ceremony, but the outcome and the healing is the divine. And that takes humility and to cleanse yourself as best you can to bring that to the people. So that's my prayer. I'm just saying Lakota and we'll start. O Tunkashila ina la ompetuan wa kanson yakukele lila wopila ichichilo. Nataku iongla kakehe wa kanlo. Oyate ki honglila takija pelo. Natako otarila techia umpelosae. Leon petuki taku iongla kake. Doske ke he na ona washe ke wakanta ogna mitaki ese ogna onktasha hoche chilo omitaki ase. So we're ready to go. Chris, are you on board?
Yes, sir. I'm here. Happy to be here.
How about your buddy, the other physicist?
Yeah, Dr. Mark Harris is here.
Good morning, Basil.
Yes, good morning. Now, Chris, I want you to tell the people when you two came to the ceremony house, we talked about the relationship briefly about quantum physics, some of the teaching, and also Lakota teaching. And I heard from Dr. Harris is that he was in agreement. Am I right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, correct. We're in agreement. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And these two gentlemen are geniuses in understanding. To me, they're wired in a Wolakota. I mean, Wolakota means I'm using the word indigenous. And the word indigenous goes to a lot of words, but to me, it goes to be this information I'm sharing today is born within us. That's what indigenous really means. You're born with this knowledge. You're born with this language, not only the language you speak, but the language of nature, the universe, the language of the wind, the language of nature, because actually science really means the research and the understanding of nature. So to me, nature is the language of the divine creation. That's my definition. And also when I say the word indigenize, it's an aspect of your brain, your heart, and your soul, and your body that has been the gift to be awakened to, and how your neurological structure is able to sequence the sound, the vibration, and the frequency of your electromagnetic field. I'm using linear and secular words to define this, but I have to do that because you're wired that way so you can understand it. And also it goes to the second law of thermodynamics, and from there to the circadian rhythm, and from there to the uncreated vibration sound and frequency. Frequency to me is the way I understand is how you measure the amount of energy that is encapsulated in a cell and how much indigenous vibration frequency you understand from that. So it also gives you the capability to understand and hear the sound within a sound. And here's what I mean by that. If you're sitting outside in a vision quest or just meditating or looking at trees or the flowers and you feel a little brush of wind, neurologically, you know that's the wind, okay? It's an aerodynamic principle in the atmosphere. Other ways to describe it. But when you indigenize your mind, your heart, your soul, and your body, it goes to another sound, another language. That's the breath of the divine. That's the breath of all your ancestors. That's the breath of the tree, the water, the earth. That's indigenous mind. So I'm going to say this, and I always say this, is what I'm going to share today. You already have this platform that's in your cerebral cortex. The cerebral cortex already knows how to balance and put rhythm to who you are with a divine frequency. And also the second part of the mind, the function of the mind is to code. What I mean by that is you tell the difference between different sounds. I'll give you an example. Let's say somebody says, you did something, so I'm sorry. Your cerebral cortex is able to code that, the vibration and the frequency of that sound when somebody says, I'm sorry. Your brain can tell you, is that just a social word this person is saying, or is it just customary to say, I'm sorry? And it doesn't go to the depths of what your cerebral cortex has coded. Because the second part to I'm sorry means I'm sorry I did something to hurt your feelings. The second part to that is I will not do it again. I am sorry and I'll not do it again is an implied frequency on divine knowledge that is encoded in your being. That's a big difference. Also, it goes between a firecracker and a rifle shot. After all, you can tell the difference. Or even when you say, I love you. When you see when your wife or uncle or your mom or grandpa, and you say, I love you, again, the frequency of that, what you said, I love you, is coded in you, and you can understand the full frequency of what this person has said to you. On the other hand, the person that you said it to has a coding that accepts that at whatever level that person has been coded. If that person feels that this sound and the meaning behind it that's coded into your brain, your heart, your soul, and your body, you take it at a full measure. I hope you understand what I'm saying. You probably do. That's the amazing part about indigenize your mind, your heart, your soul, and your body. And I have to include in the body, the bone is really an intricate, amazing part of your humanity. It is the one that codes It's the one that has the ability to pick up the vibration and code and to able for you to be in rhythm and in balance with your ethnosphere. And that's to Lakota word is Daku Wakan Shkan Shkan. So does what I just talked about, does this include what we call dimensionality? Yes. Now, my basic understanding, I checked with Chris and I'm thinking what Mr. Harris says about this. Dimensionality is for Lakota, in Lakota language, we say Daku Wakan Shkan Shkan. So the definition of what I just said in Lakota means something in sacred motion. But the implied language in it also goes to what we say, mitaku ye iyuha oyaski, means when I say taku wa kanshkanshkan, I'm also speaking to I am connected. I've connected to the electromagnetic field, to the second law of thermodynamics, the circadian rhythm, and the divine vibration of the uncreated universe. The definition, the way you might want to migrate this and so you can understand it more, because most of you are wired that way, is space and time are interdependent. And it forms a 4-dimensional continuum. Dr. Harris, does that make sense?
Yes, and when we talk about the fourth dimension, we have our usual dimensions of, on a graph, X, Y, and Z, up, down, and in and out, and the
Right.
fourth dimension being time. But when you get into really the quantum bizarreness of the world, quantum physicists vehemently argue about, are there 10 or 11 dimensions? And they really butt heads about this a lot. But from a internal knowledge perspective, time is the fourth dimension, absolutely.
Okay. Now, in our tradition, in our language, I'm going to say some things that may be a little bit challenging. To me, when I get up in the morning, my first prayer is breath. I've been breathing all night. What a gift. Because breath, the way you understand breath, when you go to the hospital, they put a little thing on your finger and it measures your oxygen level. In the indigenous way, what it's measuring is actually oxygen really means to beget. And beget means the divine vibration of the creator. Lakota called that wo nie wa kan. You can, a synonym for that would be Holy Spirit or Holy Ghost. So all night have I been bringing in the Holy Ghost and Holy Spirit and exhaling it, carbon dioxide. All those are gifts that is all involuntary. I don't say, okay, I'm going to go to bed tonight and I'm going to breathe 892 breaths tonight. It does that. It's an amazing thing. I mean, if you just think about that, you're created with a divine that had the unbelievable knowing to create who we are. So I also call breathing as moving to the fourth dimension. Chris, does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's an interesting, as Mark was saying, in, out, up, down, back, forth, these mentioned, then time is the fourth. And the Lakota language, as we covered in our book, which will hopefully be coming out here sometime relatively soon, we get into this, the interface of the Lakota languaging and what's happening in quantum physics, and how Lakota is a non-linear language, which is really the better way to describe quantum physics, which is just a bewildering mathematical framework that becomes non-linear. So yes, I'm with you. It makes sense to me.
Okay. So breathe is my first prayer. I sacramentalize breath. What I mean by that is I go to a knowing. I go to a understanding. I'm not talking about faith and belief because they're lower vibrational description. I'm going to a knowing. They asked Dr. Young one time, said, "Do you believe in God?" He said, "No." Well, why? I said, what is it? You don't believe in God? He said, "I know there's a God." That's where I'm at too. In our Lakota tradition, we know there's a God. There's a big difference between a St. Thomas's version of the Bible and St. James. This is not a criticism. St. James almost goes to the indigenous principle. We talk to God. Over here in St. James, we talk about God. A huge difference. And over here, we talk about non-duality. Over here, we talk about duality. And also reverse the word polarization. Polarization is a word that separates. We're really in the polarization state of being on this planet. So the reverse of that, which goes to a non-duality principle, in the Lakota, when we say polarization, the word for polarization, Lakota, means wo wan jila wishocha, becoming one. Even this, I'm sculpturing, folding my hands. And to me, that's becoming one. I'm one with the divine. But polarization in the Lakota linguistic understanding means that two opposites can exist at the same time. Life and death is that the same thing. Nothing dies in our language. It just gets rearranged. Hate and love, male and female. Turning my will, my human will and my human life over to the divine mind. That's how I sobered up. May 5th is going to be 50 years of complete sobriety because I went to that principle of forgiving the unforgivable. What happened to me at the boarding school, what they did to me in my language, cut my hair, taking all my rituals away, and reaching down deep into my innocence and said I was a fraud human being. Anyway, I had to do this and this and that. Okay. My grandma said, just embrace it, but remember, do not make fun of the way they believe. That's a wonderful gift my grandma taught me. I still try to do that best I can. I'm a human being, so sometimes I make a mistake, but in that same principle, she says, you need to download something that's very important. She said, enemies can be a quality control in your spiritual walk. I said, how's that, Grandma? Remember, she's talking to me in Lakota. I said, how's that? He said, when they criticize you or make fun of you, listen to what they're saying. If it's true, correct it. If it's not true, pray for them that they can become indigenized in the way they relate to their universe and to each other. What a wonderful thing. Now, I'm going to go to some more fourth dimensional things. My heart, I touched my heart. It's beating. When did the heart start beating? I asked some cardiac doctors in different hospitals, especially in the one in Minnesota and Rochester, Mayo. I said, when does the heart start beating? I think they said the first semester or second trimester or third trimester, whatever. But I said, when did the mother get her heart to beat? And her mother. They said, that's interesting. So I said, I thought maybe it goes to this quantum principle when atom A, the electromagnetic energy, which is electron, moves from A to B, and there's no stimuli to cause that electron to move to atom B. It just happens. Daku wakan shkan. Something in sacred motion. Is a heartbeat from the uncreated beyond the Big Bang? Because our belief is beyond the Big Bang. It goes to an uncreated vibrational, whatever you want to call it. I'm using linear words now. I can't, it's hard to define a beginning that has no beginning and has no end. How do I say that? Is that when the motion of who we are began? That's our belief. So prayer, heart, and when I go and then I drink coffee or drink water, I pray with it. When I pray, do I change the the water crystals in being in perfect symmetry with the holography of the universe? Yes. Dr. Komodo from Japan did that. So that's proven scientifically. Some of you read that book and understand that. Some I can go into that. When I pray with chanupa pipe, when I take this sacred stone that has a bowl, has a recess in it where I put the prayers in there, and I connect it with a ash wood, and I put them together. In principle, that means I am being one with the stone, with this divine creation, also the wood, but it represents the whole that goes into that wood is the soul of mankind. I'm putting my soul and the soul of the divine and being one. So, and also I can do it mystically. I don't even have to have a stone in my hand and a piece of wood in my hand. I can do that ceremony. I can do it vibrationally. I can form that in my brain and bring it to my imagination. Hold my hand up and ask the divine to put that divine pipe in my hand and bring it down and begin the ritual mystically. So what there's much more. There's much more. I mean, just think when you see a hawk, are you the observer and is the hawk the observed, or is it the reverse? Are you the observer? Is the hawk the observer? No, it's the third one. You're one with the hawk. Same with the deer. Same with the tree. The tree even magnifies the dimensionality, because what you don't see, which are the roots, supports what you do see. What an unbelievable metaphor my grandma told me. I can't see the divine. I can only see its essence in all creation. The breath, the water, the wind, all the animals, the light. That's why Lakota's named a woman Wia, elongated vowel. The linguistic scholar saying that's amazing because all these languages we studied, they have that. So what I'm trying to explain to you is that my church is everything. It's in the sounds of the birds. I'm walking on a holy ground. I can pray with the tree. I can listen to the frogs, to the elk, to the birds, listen to the wind, the water. Do I still now and then go to mass in the morning? Yes, because there is a ritual there that I wish they would have explained to me when I was going to school in catechism. They call it transubstantiation. What they told us is that that priest was given the gift to change that water or that grape juice into the blood of Christ. That's huge. I didn't have to know what to have it explained to me because I was wired from a 3 to a 4 dimension principle to know that happens, because I said that's the part that should be explained. It goes from changing my human mind to the divine mind. When I asked for forgiveness and I forgave the people at the church, and I also forgave myself what I did in the war. I did some things in the war and they rewarded me with medals. Why should I get a medal for taking life? So I threw them all away. But when I went to PTSD counseling, when I was having a struggle with alcohol, and they told me that this one veteran said, you need to take those medals and put it on your hat. He said, what that does, you take that injured warrior, that toxic energy that when you kill people, you need to sculpture it away from you and put it on your hat, and to recognize your buddies who gave their life, had your back, and practice the most amazing, divine, spiritual, religious principle. When you went to war, you knew that your buddy had your back. What that means, the willingness to give their life for you. And Schopenhauer discovered that in the Vietnam War, and he called it a metaphysical breakthrough. He wondered why these young 17, 18, 19-year-old warriors were getting up and going after their buddies in no man's land who got shot and bring them back. And sometimes they get killed. He said, I gotta talk to these guys. He asked me, I said, you guys go to church? I said, no. Do you guys drink and raise hell? I said, yeah. You guys go to geisha houses? I said, yeah. So he wanted to know, where did you guys get this when you guys got up without even asking, should I go after my buddy and bring him back? That's infused divine gift that we all have. And I was able to experience firsthand. I read about it and I heard about it from the pulpit, but never have I ever seen another human being give their life for another human being. And the bonding, we all need to be awakened to go to our bonding. We're all related. Takuwa kanshkanskan. Mitakue oyasi. Is burning sage and allow that divine sacred fire, which is light, to awaken and bring forth what you see as smoke. We see it as releasing the spirit from either cedar, sage, lavender, whatever herb you use. So not only do you see that smoke as spirit, and if you ever smudge and sit somehow in the sunlight coming from a window and see the formations of that smoke, the different shapes. I forgot which physicist says that's called indigenizing. I think that we said indigenizing a ritual, burning sage or cedar. But also you got a second gift. That is fragrance. Does fragrance go to your enkephalons and your endorphins, which is the center of bringing joy and love and expansion through other dimensions? Yes. That's how my grandma told me about forgiveness. When you step on the flower, kneel down and smell it. It's going to still share its divine fragrance, even though you injured it. Our scripture is in nature. That's why we call it creation-centered spirituality. And also it's in the Aramaic language that Christ spoke. He says, look under the rock, there I am. But he meant the whole creation. Everything in the universe was created unconditionally. Love. I challenge you to really try to dimensionalize what love is. Love. And I don't know how many words in English. I only know one word. I mean, I think affection is one, love. And there's some more. But in the Lakota language, there are many words meaning love. It's full of love. It's full of becoming one with and wanting you to experience the same divine desire and energy that you are trying to share with your wife or a girlfriend or a buddy. I have to be very watchful how I'm going to share this. I got a call from Ivan Lookinghorse. Ivan is a brother of his brother who has been gifted to carry the calf pipe, which was given to the Lakota people. And the Great Spirit put the values on that pipe: love, unconditional love, forgiveness, kindness, etc. And are the exact values that Christ taught. So does that give you pause and say, did the divine manifest something divine to teach us the values in which we need to live? Yes. But he told me, I'm going to come to visit you. He met yesterday. They came yesterday, him and his wife. He said, here's what we're going to do in June. It was a dream that we're going to have a ceremony at a place in Wyoming called Matotipila. Some of you know that, what I'm talking about. Devil's Tower. The name Matotipala predates by thousands of years before they named it Devil's Tower. Matotipala means the home of the bear. They're going to bring all the old songs, Sundance songs, that the elders still remember. They're going to bring the star knowledge. The star knowledge is part of the way we navigate our ethnosphere, how we speak, how we pray, and when we conduct our ceremonies. By looking at the Big Dipper, when it pours water, the formation of the Pleiades, the seven sisters, the pole star, when the sun goes on, when it comes up, the migration of our relatives going north or south. All those are teachings. Does a tree teach us what I said earlier? What you see supports what you don't see, supports what you do see. How about the leaves that fall from the tree in the fall? What does that teach you? My grandma told me, she said, that sacred tree is teaching how to let go. One of the things as a human being, and I'm included, we're very tenacious to hold on things. Some of it is valuable, but some of it can cause you to be out of vibration and balance, and you can get sick. The tree letting go of the leaves is very gentle and quiet, and you don't see any struggling. And also the second part of the leaves of letting go, they come down and fall on our sacred grandmother, the earth. And the earth doesn't belong to us. We belong to the earth. That's a very hard change that we had to go through. But those leaves form a sacred shawl for our grandma. So they're going to bring all this back, and also the position of the cosmology. We have a cosmological understanding, just like when the Greeks brought it. I'm not going to go through all of them because there's too many. The sunflower teaches us about the weather, the climate. The fur of animals. We didn't have a watch. We didn't have calendars. That's why they say Indians go by Indian time. What is that? We do it when it's time to do it. But what you do, you need to do it in the right way. So they can also teach us when is it time to do the sun dance? The sun dance is a kind of linear, secular description. It's more than a dance. It's more than a sacred tree. It's more than a pole star. What is the principle behind it? One of the ways my grandma told me is called ich u we cho ah. Giving yourself, your mind, your heart, and your soul, and your body. Some of you sun dance, so you know what I'm talking about. You don't drink water. You don't eat for 4 days. Sometimes we give an allowance for that. But it's very difficult to do that for 4 days. You're dancing all day in rhythm and vibration with the universe. And when you dance to the tree and when you put your hands on the tree, you become one with the sacred tree that's connected, it polarized to the above and below principle. And that above and below principle has no center or no edges, also in every direction. So when you say I'm praying toward the west direction, direction is dimensionality. It's space and time. That's integrated or interdependent, mitakuyasin, connected in divine way, and forms a 4-dimensional vibration, and they use the word continuum. Always was and always will. So they're coming back. The Cheyennes are going to be there. The Arapahoes are going to be there. Each one of those tribes are going to bring their sacred bundles, medicine. And the purpose of this coming together is to awaken who we really are, because we're living in a very challenging times. The shamans and the medicine men are listening to the spiritual world and they're telling us things, but we don't go out and broadcast that because some people are unable to sequence that. They're praying many times. They gather there at the Yellowstone National Park. And some of you already know that. The physicists and geologists are measuring how far is the geysers? Is it going down? Or is the vibration going up? It's going up. There's something telling us. Mother Nature has got a language. It speaks in symbols and it speaks in metaphors. You are originally, primordially wired to hear that. My forgiving the unforgivable, you know what the fruits of that is? I sobered up. I gave my human mind to the divine mind and said, I give up. I can't do it by myself. My life is unmanageable. That's the fruit. I had to do some things in order to keep sober. I have to pray every day when I get up, every day. Do I forget sometimes? Yes. But majority of the time, when I get up, I pray with my breath, my heart, I smudge, and I listen to the sounds of the universe. I got a recording, and I go through some of the ancient teaching sounds. I go, If you just hear that, when you do that, your whole body vibrates. You know, I know that Julia might talk about this, but all of a sudden I get a call from a Jesuit priest. He said, what you said on some of the teaching, the Pope asked different places all over the world to get indigenous people to talk about their wisdom. Well, they came to me when we talked about it, and in there I expressed the wisdom of forgiveness. And they wrote a book, and they sent me a copy from Wisconsin. And so I got it, and it's called The Wisdom of the Elders, Sharing the Wisdom of the Elders. Somebody got that book. Now, later, the Pope came to Canada. Now I know that this has been going on for a while. I'm not saying what we did was the reason why he came to Canada and asked for forgiveness. And he instructed the priest to not just talk about, but do something about this. So that's still in a process. That's amazing. But also, Notre Dame heard about this, and they sent a film crew out here. And one of the things that's interesting is that we're going to ask you. You're saying that this is a miracle, right? So you want to say it? We're going to ask. Is what you did with changing the mountain to is a miracle? I said yes. Okay, I'm going to ask you again. Say it again. I said, why are you asking me 2 times? Because people don't believe you. I said, I didn't say it to have them believe me. I'm not following some. I'm not. I mean, are you telling me that the church is evaluating if this is a miracle or not? I mean, they have their own criteria, but we don't. We're following the Lakota indigenous criteria that it passed through some very hardwired people in South Dakota, and it still went through. And one of these senators that was in office then also is supporting us on removing the Stain Act, and that is there are about 22 cavalry got Congressional Medal of Honor killing children, women, and old men at Wounded Knee. And as a combat veteran, I read some of the day report. A day report is someone writes everything that happens on that day. How many were wounded? How many were killed? How many grenades were used? What was the ladder to what bus were we? How many people were killed? And all that. And so I read some of them, and I went to some very frustrated anger because I know some people who got the Congressional Medal of Honor in Korea, and also some people in World War II. You just don't give this out for sitting along a bank watching a little Indian girl crying, sitting there. There was a narrative that this cavalry got a medal for that. Now, General Forsyth wrote that. General Forsyth's grandson came to a ceremony here and asked for forgiveness. And also his superior was General the one that's named after Black Guy. Anyway, but General Miles was the superior to all these generals. When he read that, he said, "We can't let this happen. We got to change that." But his superiors overruled him and said, "Let it go." So now we're trying to change that. Also, the Nez Perce people under Chief Joseph that was stopped before they went to Canada, he had a prayer stick with feathers and stuff. His relatives kept that. So they didn't come down to New Mexico and did that forgiveness ceremony, but that prayer stick was part of that ceremony because the Nez Perce people were massacred with that same weapon. But also at that ceremony, we had 2 women that were related to General Custer, weren't they there?
Yeah, 2 women who are related to Custer. Also related to an ancestor who invented plastic, which of course has ended up contaminating the entire planet. All kinds, descendants of American presidents and people who enslaved others, and there was someone descended from someone who was like the mastermind behind the Trail of Tears.
When I was standing there at the East Gate when they're coming in, I looked and there was 2 priests in their cassocks that came in. Now that totally caught me off guard, and it made me cry. They said, on our part, we can't speak for the whole church, but we're asking to forgive. But also there was a German Gestapo relative apologized to the Palestinians and the Jewish people, and they came and hugged each other. That blew me away too.
Basil, I want to ask you something. Did this begin with you having a dream or a guidance from your grandmother and then bringing your peace pipe to the Harney family?
No, I didn't take no peace pipe to the Harney family.
How did you connect with the Harney family? Was that the beginning of this?
The first family I contacted was the Blackout family.
Right.
Myron Blackout was the grandson of Nicholas Blackout, was referred to me by Charlotte Blackout. So he came and we smoked a pipe together, and we
Okay.
said, we're going to put in this pipe the prayer to move from a feminine spiritual motion under the pipe of Blackout on his spirit. It was basically like that. And so him and I smoked the pipe with some other, I think a Swifbird was there, Charlotte was there.
And then how did the Harney family get involved with this? Because that was the name of the peak, Harney Peak, right?
right. So I met Paul because Loretta was the matriarch that was at the horse sanctuary Sundance. And she said, Basil, I see where you're changing it. You're moving, change that name. I read that newspaper. He said, there's a guy that hasn't come up to Piedmont. It's a gathering up there. And I think I think his grandson's gonna be there. I'll introduce you to him. So that's how I met him.
Okay.
But
It's totally a miracle.
yes, so my teaching is this: I did not change that name. The divine feminine changed that name. Was there a lot of people who weighed in different ways? Yes, but it was changed under that same thing as Fool's Crow said, be a hollow bone. What does that mean? It means just being a vehicle. Be humble. Don't raise money to influence and make it into a business. I said, we're not going to do that. Well, there's some that did that. I don't know, but I'm not going to weigh in on that. They asked me to go to Washington. I said, I can't do that. So they called me and said, make a video. I did that and sent it to them. But so Paul and I got together and we talked about that. And we had 4 different places where the South Dakota name change board held meetings. One was in Martin, South Dakota. One was in Custer. One was in Philandro, and one was in Rapid City. So they took part in it. Some of them went to Washington to talk to the 24 name change committee. So yeah, but there were some other people too that were involved. So there was a wonderful movement, holistic movement.
Yeah.
But I said in that video that Notre Dame made, no human being can say they can take credit for that. They were just hollow bones. They put an effort in her because it's too much to have a human being to have that capability to change that.
Yeah.
That's my take on it. So, Judy, you want to tell us about what happened? That's going to happen in Kansas City.
Yes.
And I say this with humility. I didn't ask for this. When I got that letter, I showed it to Charlotte, and I said, I don't feel that I deserve this.
Well, I don't know anyone who deserves it more. So I really am grateful to the Unity Worldwide Movement and the Unity School, who gives out awards to people who embody the Christ teachings, who are a stand for interfaith, intercultural understanding. We call it the Light of God Expressing in the World Award. And it isn't even given every year. to somebody outside of unity. It's been given to Mother Teresa, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, to many wonderful people. And this year, Basil Brave Heart is going to be the recipient of that award.
Well, I forgot something that I think is important. My grandma taught me in Lakota, she said, Takoja toha woki ktunza wichocha ichano ke he iutakshi lila wakan sahe wakantanka tiopaki yuhailo na he walaking telo. Grandson, this forgiveness is a very sacred teaching or a way. And that ceremony is a very divine ceremony. I said it opens the door. And I kind of liken to it, it's like the password to the unconsciousness, to the pure unconscious. Now, there's a lot of, I know a lot of you probably looked at the word consciousness is. It's really, to me, the simple definition I go by, it's a knowing. And what is that knowing? That we are a divine being and we have a deep spiritual connection with the divine. And so I talked to a mystical priest yesterday from Minnesota. I said, tell me what you think about the church's teaching of forgiveness. He said, Basil, it's one of the, how do you say, it's one of the pillars of Christianity. And he said, because I studied Christ. Now, this is my teaching. Christ's teaching by his brother Thomas wasn't a Christian. The word Christ is a Greek word. If I'm wrong, correct me. It means the anointed one. And the anointed one means just like what the white cow buffalo woman brought the pipe to Lakota people, and also different tribes all over the world. But the anointed one means someone who models the values of the divine. So we're all called to do that. We're all anointed. We're all anointed beings. And so Desjardins was the first one I read where he said the Christology is more than what we know. And he went to the indigenous, the cosmological Christ, and he meant the universe is an anointed being, an anointed mind. The universe probably has the same holography of the human brain. Just look at the word holograph, what it means. Is that why some medicine men or some I forgot the word anyway. They went into caves to receive the gift of the divine as part of their initiation. And there's evidence that they went to some caves where the walls were embedded with crystal. So when they went in there, when they lit whatever they had, they saw themselves in every part of that cave. That's one of the principles of holography. Are we part of the wind? Are we part of the earth, the tree, the flowers? Yes. Is that when my grandma told me, she said, you need to follow his ways so you can bloom like a nakhja, a flower. But the metaphor she used said, water it every day. Let it have the sacred wind, which is a nitrogen, oxygen, all the other elements participate in the growth of this divine flower. And that's you too. And also the solar energy. And then the fertile soil, that's you, the foundation of who you are. And if you take care of that with water, breath, and light, and groundedness with the divine earth, the Mother Earth, eventually you're going to see that flower bloom. And that brings to me when about 8 years ago, they had a big convention on the reservation at Red Shirt Table. And this was put on by some spiritual leaders from France. And it was mostly for young people, anything from 18 to 27, 28 years old. And they asked me to do a lecture on forgiveness, a nature-centered forgiveness. So I did that. And the guy said, you're gonna teach it with a guy who owned a church right next to the towers in New York, who had also caused it to have a structural damage because of what happened to the towers. So him and I shared, and he said, let's vote on something that is tangible. Let's said Mr. Brave Heart talks about the creation story about the flower bringing forgiveness for its fragrance. Why don't we all take a flower, go home and plant a flower, and teach that the flower is the essence of a teaching that is nature-centered. That's why one of my favorite songs is, where have all the flowers gone?
Mm.
And at the end it says, where has all the graveyards gone? They went to the flower. They talk about where did all the girls go? The husbands. They all went to the flower. Okay, we got a little time, so there's something here that people ask me about. I said, spirituality and science is coming together. So I'm going to ask Dr. Harris what he thinks about that. Can you speak to that, Dr. Harris?
Yeah, spirituality and
Science.
science. Yes, I'd be pleased to speak about that. Now, for the past 120 years, quantum physics has pretty much confused absolutely everybody, and continues to be such a thing. And a couple of my favorite quotes, one was from the top guy, Niels Bohr, 1906, said, if you don't think it's complicated, you don't understand it. And then another one, 1955, Richard Feynman said he didn't think anyone understood it, and he wrote a textbook on it. But if you go deeply into this, and I've been kind of living in this field for most of my life, it kind of brings us back to spirit in that, well, let's just in a mundane way look at food. When you eat anything, what do you turn it into? Eventually it turns into an electron, and we make energy out of it. And as we learn about electrons in school when we're a child, they kind of float around a nucleus like planets around a star or the sun. That's not how they work at all. Most of the time, they're not even there, and you really can't predict where they are. And if we look at the space between them, that's what we call the quantum vacuum, the thing that animates everything we know about. And I've been in this field since 1971, and I have no problem with this animation of everything, calling it spirit, because frankly, it's the same thing. We just don't have the words for it in perhaps any decent language. Are we supposed to be able to talk about this? I think we're supposed to be able to experience this. And that's why the words fail us so dearly, both on a quantum physics level and a spirituality level.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
There's a lot of people here that they have experienced it,
Yeah.
and they talk to the divine. They don't talk about it. And sometimes those are very private epiphanies or theophanies that they experience are very private. I understand that. That's our teaching too. But all this what's going on is this is an old teaching. Know that I am. So really research what the word I am means. You'll be surprised where it's going to take you. The word I am. There's a sun dancer on a cross up in White Owl, South Dakota at a Lakota spiritual center. And they put a Native man on the cross. And below it says in Lakota, Le Mielo, I am. So I'm not going to say it now, but the young Lakota children are taking that and they're saying, we're not Native Americans, we're not Indians. They're taking that and describing who we are. That is amazing what they're doing.
So Basil, one of my sisters, Janine Kamira, has the voice of an angel, and she's going to offer us a song right now. Thank you, Janine.
Thank you. I'm very honored to do this and pull up this wonderful song that Basil mentioned. Where have all the young girls gone? Long time passing. Where have all the young girls gone? Long time ago. Where have all the young girls gone? Gone to soldiers, everyone. When will they ever learn? When will they ever learn? Where have all the soldiers gone? Long time passing. Where have all the soldiers gone? Long time ago. Where have all the soldiers gone? Gone to graveyards, everyone. When will they ever learn? When will they ever learn? I just realized I forgot the very first verse about the flowers, but you all knew that, right? Where have all the graveyards gone? Long time passing. Where have all the graveyards gone? Long time ago. Where have all the graveyards gone? Gone to flowers, everyone. When will they ever learn? When will they ever learn? So you all can sing this last part with me. Where have all the flowers gone? Where have all the flowers gone? Long time passing. Where have all the flowers gone? Long time ago. Where have all the flowers gone? Young girls picked them, everyone. When will they ever learn? When will they ever learn?
Thank you very much. That's really it goes to my bones. Really an honor to be here today, share this. And I always say this in closing for me that I hope I wasn't disrespectful to anyone. I hope no one thinks that I'm trying to compare one teaching to another or one tradition. I hope you don't think I'm trying to recruit anybody. It's an attraction rather than a promotion. We didn't promote this thing that is going on. It just happened. Word of mouth. There's different groups that do healing. They say that too. We don't promote this, what we're doing, working with people. It's an attraction. When we first started, we didn't advertise it. We just always said we're going to have a forgiveness or healing ceremony. And it just from there, it just caught on. Because to me, that goes to that principle I was talking about. People become awakened. And some of that is mystical. And that's because I've always said is everybody's mystical, but they're mysticism. Because my definition of mysticism is when you have a knowing there's something higher, there's a power more than you, greater than you. It's not some place where some academic university where only the scholars or the clergy have that honor to say they're mystics. Yes, they are, but we're all mystics because we're all capable of loving ourselves, loving all our relatives, all the animals, and our humanity.
Thank you, Basil, for such inspiring vibration. Do you want to do a closing prayer for us, Basil?
So in my prayer, I refer to the feminine and to the masculine. I see Ina, which is mother, and Ate, which is father, male, female. So Ina, Ate, Ake le mitaki chi wochiki dakon wogla kalkehe hena nitalo. Na dakwan leampetake pekele a dagni shitis exche le woa kami shoka kle honk a blazer ke helu kana honk that say he on lelo a hilo. Na moto wakia imachia matagni snilo cholam petuki hochi chilo yuha lena mitake hiu kale wishoch nata nanchante narihi wowaka dakon wakana kiuha mishakwe tukashlam petiki homitakuyasi. In short, I ask to open your mind, your heart, and your spirit to, in a humble way, take these teachings and navigate whatever part of your spiritual path is. And don't be afraid to have the courage, rather, to ask the divine to give you guidance and be patient for the answer. And so my name is Bear, looking after his people. I sit here, I don't know nothing. I'm just an instrument. And so I say and share these things with a lot of humility and please don't let me perform, but let me share this with love. I close it with Metal Kyasim is all my relation.